Good evening and welcome to Game Master's Guide. I'm Jonathan Albin, your host, and today we are going to be looking into the future. No, we're going to be looking at what players really want from their game masters, what they really want from their games. And I'm going to try to be as concise as I can be because there's a lot of information we need to cover, but we also need to get to it pretty quickly because I know that your time is really important, and I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. So before we do that, click all the buttons down below so that the algorithm knows that you're part of our audience, and let's get after it.
Absorbing damage is the name of the game. From the claws of monsters or the heat from a ball of flame, or strength in numbers is a roll of the dice.
Alrighty, so we're going to get ready to do this really quickly, but I did want to mention the fact that I did do a video, or rather attempted to record a video this morning that was some of my personal gripes and rants and complaints, and that got completely botched somehow, so I determined that the universe must want me to do a different video, and that's this one in particular. So we're going to be talking today about 10 things that players want from their games, regardless of the genre, regardless of the game mechanic, regardless of any of that, what it is they want from the experience. Now, having 50 years of being behind a shield, I know that there would be arguments about what if they want this kind of adventure, or what if they want that kind of adventure. That one notwithstanding, what are the 10 things that they really, really expect from every game? And I think you'll see what I mean. So the first thing they want is to know that they're not wasting their time. If you are a professional game master, as I am, when you are a paid person performing a service, you obviously have to do a really exceptional job in terms of providing them with the benefit that they're expecting. But even if you are a game master who receives gifts and goodies and pizza and beer, that's itself got an expense, and you need to provide them with the best possible experience that you can. Now, this does mean that they also have to provide some give and take, and you can set down some ground rules and things like that, the stuff that I've mentioned before in session zeros. But once you're past that and you're working on a regular scale, you want to give them every bit of bang for their buck, and you want to therefore provide them with exactly what they're expecting from you. They also really want it to be a fun time. They want there to be action. They want there to be excitement, thrills, concerns, scares, fears, and they want it to be an interactive process. If you try to phone it in, you're going to have a problem. Your players are going to recognize the lack of effort, and they're going to be very disappointed. So make sure that you provide them with as lively an interaction as you can. This does, of course, mean that the game master needs to be well prepared for the setting, the situation, and have everything in his mind worked out in advance so that he can present the best possible game to the players and make it as enjoyable and exciting as possible. The third thing that a game master needs to really work on is develop his process for thematic narration. If the players have come together for a horror story, then you definitely need to build in the nervousness and edginess that they're looking for. If they are looking for a smash and grab and a monster bash kind of an environment, then definitely pump up your narrative and give them what they're looking for. This doesn't mean you have to be extremely extensive in your description. You just need to make sure that it fits the theme that they, as players and those involved, would want from their experience. So if it's nautical, then read up on your nautical terms and be familiar with the difference between port and starboard and forward aft. It's not difficult to provide this thematic edge, but by providing it, you're giving them exactly what they expect, and you're allowing them, therefore, to build a memory in the environment that they want to build it within. This does mean that you need to be able to get information out quickly. Learning a mechanism for developing clear, concise narration, giving them perfunctory data first and then amplifying as there is time is a great way to go. You want to give them a place for their feet, so to speak, when you are doing a role-playing game. If you are operating in the theater of the mind, as I often do, it's really important that I give them a description that lets them know where they are relative to everything else in the room, and as well any possible exits or departures from that location, so that they feel the reality of the session. Of course, the next you want to have is immersive engagements. This does require quite often writing things out and doing some extensive research well in advance. The advantage to having a fully developed world is you can have a clearly understandable experience, access to that information and know what kind of terminologies to use when and such. But it's really important that the engagements, the actual discussions, the discoveries that happen in the game are absolutely immersive. If you're not providing it in a way that the players can feel like they're inside the story, you're actually giving them foundation for challenging your ideas, and therefore you start to chip away at their ability to experience the game in the fashion that they are wanting to. When it comes to the die rolls, it's really important that you develop a way to describe the results in a way that feels like it makes sense. The ebb and flow of the luck that occurs in dice is legendary. Every games group has had those days where the dice just don't simply manage to fall together. So it's important to give the players perhaps some clues and some ways to engage that can kind of counteract those challenges, and also to remember that you, as a storyteller, as the game master, as the director of the action, you can actually guide the players' interactions by using this interpretive nature that we have in determining what the dice rolls really mean. The players also generally want to work together on a task. So provide enough room in your story to let your players actually engage with one another to come up with solutions. It is one thing to provide somebody who can offer them hints and things like that, but if you put too much pressure on your NAPs or non-player characters to provide this information, you're actually undermining the very useful tools of collaboration that a role-play environment can provide. So provide your players with the tools so that they can engage with one another to come up with solutions on the fly. This one may be somewhat of a challenge for some people, but the reality is that in most role-play games, the very threat of danger is a requirement, a check, almost a checkbox. If we did not feel threatened during this adventure, if we didn't see the risk of what we were doing, there wasn't any collective experience. It was a protected zone, and we want to get to the point where the players can feel those visceral threats so that they can experience the dangers that the threats are supposed to invoke. And by providing them with this feeling, even if it's simply making a death save or two, or going into a scene not knowing what the outcome is going to be, you provide a stronger play experience for everybody at the table. The next we need to have is an encouraging environment. And by this, I mean, when you have a group of people together and they are all working out their discussions, make sure that everybody at the table gets an opportunity to speak, get the opportunity to be part of the conversation, and make sure that everyone also understands that it's a collaborative environment and an encouraging one. And the reality is that no decision is a wrong decision if it's made by a player character. It's merely what's going to be the outcome that will be the ups and downs of the game. As a very good friend of mine often says, bad roles make for great role-playing. And so provide an encouraging environment where the players feel like they're putting their 2 cents in and getting more than their money's worth out of it. And of course, finally, the adventurers generally are looking for some sort of commensurate reward. It doesn't mean necessarily you have to pay them out cash. It's not like you have to be an ATM machine, but every time they play, they get something for no action. But instead, give a give and take kind of an environment where what they put forward, they get back in spades. When they've done a great deed, then they get a great reward and a lot of celebration and acknowledgement. The reality is that the players are there to play the game, but part of that playing the game is the character's advancement and the character's progression. And if you are a game master who is used to withholding withholding experience points and reducing the rate at which players advance, take into consideration the amount of effort that the players have put into it as well. I know that we as game masters generally put in 2 to 5 times as much time per person into the session as the others at the table, but it's really about what the players have done within the scope of the game, and when they have done really well, they need to be accordingly rewarded, whether that be, as I said, a physical treasure or simply a recognition and a tap on the shoulder by a superior NPC or something along that line. Now, I said all of this in reference to the sessions that I run, and yes, am a professional game master, and so my players do expect perhaps a higher ratchet in terms of the outcome from their session. But you as a game master should maintain a formal professional connection with your players, simply because your role as an authority, even if it's only in the mechanics of the game, even if you're doing a sandbox environment where the game master has very little to do in terms of theming or storytelling, you still have to be able to adjudicate properly and be judicious with everybody at the table. When you do this, you're going to provide a game session that will be outstanding and unparalleled. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm Jonathan Albin. This is Nikos RPG. We are here 5 days a week or so feel free to like and follow, subscribe, so that you can be updated whenever we do a new episode, and I will see you in the next one. Do as my grandfather recommends and go play.